Welcome to this outdoors edition of CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus. All 50 U.S. states have relaxed at least some of their restrictions concerning coronavirus. But as the 2019-2020 school year winds down, a lot of questions are being raised, not only about summer learning loss, but about what happens in the fall. The guidance from the White House says that American schools can reopen in states that have seen a lasting decrease in new COVID-19 cases and whose hospitals aren't overloaded with patients. It also says there should be no sign of a rebound of COVID-19 in these states. The guidance from the Centers for Disease Control says that schools should be ready to screen everyone for COVID-19 symptoms, carry out extensive disinfecting, help people keep their distance from each other, and have a response plan with health officials in place if someone on campus catches coronavirus. But in many cases, the final decision on this will be up to the school districts themselves. Certain schools in Montana and Idaho have reopened, while other states have said distance learning could continue in the fall. Critics of schools that reopen at this point say they're putting students and their families at risk for coronavirus. Supporters say teachers and students want to get back in the building and that the school's prepared to reduce the risk. The number of coronavirus cases differs from state to state. The rules that are still in place differ from state to state. So it's just too early to know what the country's education landscape will look like in the fall. And it's possible that any plans that are in place could change. That happened at 66 schools in South Korea. Within 2 hours of the time they reopened their doors, they closed them once again. But in other parts of the country, learning is back in session.
Here in South Korea, high school seniors are heading back to schools this Wednesday, and it really feels like a milestone in the country's fight against coronavirus. Temperature checks, hand sanitizers, social distancing, both in the classroom and at lunchtime, are really becoming the new norm. In the cafeterias, for example, here in this school in central Seoul, they have plastic partitions between people eating. Every other seat is kept vacant because that is the one place that they will be allowed to take off their masks. Apart from that, they have to wear masks on campus for the rest of the day. Now, there have been a couple of first day hurdles. We know that dozens of schools in a city just west of Seoul have had to close again after two confirmed cases within the student body. Now, the officials say that they're doing this out of precaution to make sure they can contact trace and pinpoint exactly where those students caught that virus. Paula Hancock's CNN Seoul.
So we've been taking a series of virtual vacations these past few months thanks to our new partnership with CNN Travel. It characterizes Europe as the world's biggest tourist playground. Of all the international tourism that takes place, 50% of it arrives in Europe. But the continent's economy has been crushed by the threat of and responses to coronavirus. With the summer travel season approaching, European countries are trying to figure out how they can reopen borders and transportation networks to encourage people to visit and spend money once again. A European Union official says everyone wants to get away after the lockdowns and enjoy their summer holidays, but that staying healthy and safe are key because coronavirus isn't expected to go away. Many EU border restrictions are expected to be lifted next month. Italy plans to reopen its internal borders next month. This would allow Europeans to visit other European countries, though people from other continents may still have to wait to go there. Cyril Venier walks us through France, a nation that alone attracts almost 90 million tourists a year.
Stunning views, majestic castles, centuries of history. The Loire Valley is one of the crown jewels of French tourism, drawing 6 million visitors a year from all over the world, an industry crippled by the coronavirus. After a nearly 2-month national confinement and with borders mostly shut to outside travel, tourists are now a rare commodity. Château Chaumont, once owned by the Queen of France, is one of the first in the region to reopen.
It's so calm and it's so peaceful here. It's tempting to forget that there's a coronavirus epidemic, but of course you can't. In fact, the only reason the chateau was able to reopen is because here too there are strict social distancing guidelines. Mask on, gel on your hands, there's a predetermined route that you must follow through the domain, and the number of visitors has been capped in order to avoid crowds.
It's been a while since we haven't been out, so it feels good.
Just a trickle of visitors today, all of them locals. Travel is still limited to a 100-kilometer radius. Martine and Jean-Marie Arouet had plans to visit Denmark and Uzbekistan this summer. That will have to wait.
In a way, this period's very good. We often forget to visit these beautiful sites in France, but it's a magnificent country.
The chateau doesn't expect to see its usual foreign visitors this summer, about a third of its business, they say. But the domain manager does see a silver lining.
I hope that the increase in French visitors who'll come because they can't travel abroad will make up for the foreign visitors who sadly won't be able to come.
Here in Paris, however, there's no silver lining on the horizon. The main attractions remain shut. The Eiffel Tower and the riverboats. Not far from here, the Sacré-Cœur, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre Museum, all closed. Not to mention restaurants and cafes. And with Paris still considered a red zone for the coronavirus, there's no telling when any of them might be allowed to reopen.
10-second trivia. Which of these countries is located closest to the equator? Singapore, Sri Lanka, Philippines, or Vietnam? The island nation of Singapore is located only 85 miles north of the equator. Singapore is an island, a country, and a city, but it's not very large. In terms of land area, it's less than half the size of Houston, Texas, and yet Singapore has almost 3 times the population of the American city, so it's very densely packed with people, and Singapore's government wanted to bring in more greenery and technology to the center of the island, so it added a man-made mechanical forest, and it's time to go climbing in Supertree City.
Located in a waterfront park known as Gardens by the Bay is Supertree Grove. This mechanical forest is a utopia for nature in a very urban location. Supertree Grove was commissioned by the Singapore government with the intention of raising the quality of life for its residents by enhancing greenery and flora in the city. This man-made mechanical forest consists of 18 super trees. The trees range between 80 to 160 feet high and are connected by a walkway which allows visitors to cross between them and view the city from the treetops. With their thick trunks and network of thin, neuron-like branches, each tree acts as a vertical garden. Over 160,000 varieties of orchids, ferns, and other climbing plants have been planted in the trees. The trees also generate solar power. 11 of the trees are fitted with solar photovoltaic systems that convert sunlight into energy. This provides lighting that allows the trees to come alive at night, making this an all-day, all-season horticultural heaven.
Captain Tom Moore of the United Kingdom is having an amazing season. He just turned 100 years old last month. He was hoping that a 100-lap walk around his garden would help Britain's National Health Service by raising £1,000, about $1,200. He raised more than $39 million. That earned him a Guinness World Record for the most money raised by a charity walk. But then, a single he made with British singer Michael Ball went to #1 on the charts. That earned Captain Moore another world record for being the oldest person to hit #1. But then he found out he was being awarded a knighthood for his fundraising. Captain Moore says he's delighted and overawed. There's more than a kernel of truth in saying it's a major honor, generally speaking, for a captain who is able to marshal such a commanding, admirable, and brigadier list of accomplishments he could never keep private. Woo! I'm Carl Azus. Want to give a shout out to Riverview School and all of our viewers watching in East Sandwich, Massachusetts. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for more CNN.